The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
March 22nd.
The FujiCast.
Hello, welcome to the FujiCast Daily. With Neil James, that's me, and Kevin Mullins, who would usually be sat over there, and at the moment, actually, he'll usually be at his place in Malmesbury, but the Daily Show is myself and Kev Monday through Friday, and then I decided just to keep the contact going and the community spirit going in this daily photography show, although there's quite a lot that's not necessarily only about photography now, for obvious reasons, that I would continue at the weekend with a mixture of guests as well that we'll pick up over the weeks and the months to come. We were talking yesterday about this being a period of being able to give back. To serve was a phrase that we used, and I think that's a really important thing. We've decided every single day to try and think of one positive way in which we can serve. Now, there's many ways we can't serve, and I'm a photographer and a filmmaker, and so clearly I can't go out and serve in that traditional sense of being there to take people's photographs or make a film for them, to shoot a wedding or do a commercial job. But I'm here, I've got my voice desk here, and my voice business that I've got, because that's another strand. So I've decided, one positive thing I was thinking about this morning was in my how can I serve way, was to try and provide voices for people that need them. I mean, this time of difficulty, I tweeted this morning, my job may not be key. I can't photograph, I can't film at the moment. I can do it in here and I can make YouTube films, but you know what I mean. I can't do it for my customers, really. But I do have my voice studio, and I can easily do a handful of free voiceovers every single day for people who need to communicate messages. So if you need to communicate a message, if there's something you want to get out there to somebody and it needs a voiceover, DM me or share it with people, even businesses, because businesses still need to advertise. I was watching television last night and thinking, some of the adverts are a bit, they take on a whole new look now, don't they, when you think about social distancing. But companies and organisations, charities, they'll all need to still communicate. So for me, that means perhaps I can offer my voice to them, or you if you run a charity or business that needs to keep its cogs turning. I'd be more than happy to see what I can do. Don't send me a book worth of stuff to do. But within reason, I'd like to serve. I'd like my voice to be able to do that. So there we go. Right, questions. And then I have a bit of a special guest today. Here's one from Adam Broadhead. On an Instagram note, what hashtags do you regularly use? I tend to go with, in brackets, changes depending on lens and if it's black and white, hashtag photography, hashtag FujiXT2, hashtag FujiFilm_UK, hashtag Fujinon 56mm, and so on, so on, so on. Clearly, I mean, if you're going hashtag Fujifilm _UK, you're looking for Fujifilm to see what you're doing. So there might be business purposes for that. But the thread that's just beginning to build in the Facebook group now addressed that hashtag elephant in the room. Sean Dono actually said, as an amateur who just enjoys photography, I don't really get all this hashtagging. I don't want to earn any money from my hobby. I don't strive for more followers or for more people to see my images. I don't want to be featured in a magazine or on websites. And actually, he has had a point. Adam, who wrote the post, said, maybe looking at it the wrong way, Sean. It's not about peacocking. I definitely wouldn't do that with my images. It's not about money, but it's a good connection, and hashtag, that's the way obviously that Instagram works, and hashtags can help. And he's right, yeah, it's a way to connect. It's how the tentacles work, isn't it? So for business users, that's important, and now especially so. But actually, I think it works well for those who may just like to also share their ideas. I think where it looks a bit silly and gets a bit daft is where you get some kind of hashtag tree. So there is some advice, isn't there, for hashtagging. Number one, look at what influencers are doing. I don't know what you feel about the word influencer, but that was suggested. 2, see what is trending. Be specific. 4, use unbranded but relevant hashtags. 5, cater your hashtags to the site you're using. But in reply to Adam, if you'd like to send an email on this one into click@fujicast.co.uk, share what hashtags you use and why you use particular hashtags. And of course, now that we're being joined by Sony, Canon, Nikon, I will decide which one to use soon, users, etc. I'd be intrigued to know which ones that you use as well. Right, here's one from Alan Gump to Kevin and Neil. Gents, just a word of deep thanks to you both for carrying on like true soldiers during these trying times. I'm not sure we're the true soldiers. I think the true soldiers out there, without making this sound crass, are the key workers. The very people keeping the world alive right now are those that work in shops, stacking shelves. Obviously, all those amazing people in the fire service, the ambulance service, the police, those incredible health and care workers, and the nurses, the doctors. I mean, the keys just go on and on and on, don't they? But anyway, it's nice to be considered a trooper in some respect. It's a real spirit lifter to hear your voices coming to us daily now and hearing your own family stories, and you can hear one today. I can imagine how frightening it is for both of you to ponder your economic future since you're unable to run your businesses. You are right there, Mr. Gump. I have the luxury of working from home on a salary for the time being and have no mouths to feed other than our two. Hope you're able to pull something together appropriately socially distanced to keep something trickling in. I've got to be honest, I can't see the trickle at the moment in any way, shape or form. And that's why I started the show today by saying, this is a time we can serve. Now, you can only serve for too long. I appreciate that. And look, I'm not sitting here on a mountain of money. I can promise you that much. But I can either worry about the mountain of money or I can do something to serve. And perhaps by serving, it'll retain my sanity and give me something to get up for every single day, to see a time that I need to do this, and this. That purpose. Purpose is so important. And I heard a good bit of advice the other day, Alan, for those that are worrying about the wolves at the door. Where did I hear this? This might have been Seth Godin that said this, or a guest of Seth's on one of his YouTube. Anyway, I heard this expression from somebody that said, look, I worried for years about the wolves at the door until one day somebody said to me, look, if you're worried about the wolves at the door, go to your front door, open it. In fact, I'll try it. Hold on. Go to the front door, open it, and if there's any wolves there, you're in trouble. Otherwise, if there aren't any wolves, shut the door, come back in, and carry on. So, I've decided to take that one on board. My wife, says Alan, and I are unusually close quarters in our small home in the San Francisco Bay Area, so after a week of working from home virtually on top of each other, nothing French intended, so the nerves are frayed a bit. We took a morning trip out on one of the wild beaches of the national seashore. Magnificent day, green fields, orange poppies, blue skies, white puffy clouds, and no wind. Nothing like wading in the cold surf and picnicking on the beach. When we arrived, I counted less than 15 people spread out over half a mile or more. Also, you might be interested in this, he said, making the rounds on the net at the moment. And I think this is relevant for today, particularly with Mothering Sunday. Our own Prime Minister in the UK suggested one of the greatest gifts you could give your mother this year was by not seeing her, which seems a very odd thing to say, but keeping her safe, which is paramount. Anyway, making the rounds on the net, Alan says, your parents, your grandparents were called upon to serve in a world war. You're called upon to wash your hands and sit on the couch. Don't f*** it up. Deepest thanks to you both, Alan Gump in the San Fran Bay Area. Friend of the show. You certainly are a friend of the show. Thank you, Alan. What else do we have here? One from Tom Chambers, who wrote in to click@fujicast.co.uk. Hi, gents. Liking the daily updates really does help us all feel we're not alone, and it's the same reality for everyone. You're right there. It is, isn't it? I'm looking to learn more about how to properly use sound. We started talking about sound right at the start. Here we are. So it would be great if you could maybe do an episode on the idiots, in brackets, Tom's guide to sound. Oh, Tom, you do yourself down. Having recently bought a Rode SmartLav Plus mic and looking to initially use my iPhone to make some videos for my website. First of all, the Rode SmartLav Plus mic is the one that you can plug into your iPhone. It goes in through, well, certain iPhones, obviously, not everything has the attachment now, but you go in through what what is the headphone out, and that becomes cleverly the microphone input. So it's a great idea. And at the moment where people are beginning to make little videos and post them on YouTube and other social media outlets, then it's a nice time to be making some films and practicing on your sound. Longer term, he says, I'll look to use my XT3. What are the basics that we should be doing, what to avoid doing, and other stuff that would help those who are wary of sound and what seems like quite a technical subject. Do you know, I'm quite intrigued by I'm going to jump on with Zoom.us. I was really, really impressed with it the other day, and Steve Vaughan actually introduced us to it yesterday on the daily podcast. I'm not. What I might do is do a little hangout, and you'll be invited, Tom, since you sent this in, so that we could talk about sound. If you're interested, we could spend an hour or so talking about sound one day, talk about the microphones you can use, give you hopefully a not too expensive shopping list, some ideas where you don't need to shop around, the way you can edit using. I mean, I have the Adobe suite, so I use Adobe Audition to edit my sound. But should we do that? Would that be a better idea? In essence, Tom, to answer your question on how I use sound when I'm making photo films and my own films, movies as well, is I tend to separate the sound from the camera. So the camera I use for reference, and then I sync the sound afterwards on a film timeline. That's the way I do it because I can get a better quality of sound, and then I use a range of microphones. The Zoom F1 is really, really good. Don't confuse Zoom, the audio Zoom with people doing the conferencing. They're two different companies. But I use the Zoom F1, which is I use it as a lapel microphone one. It's a closed unit essentially, so there's no radio frequency going back to the camera at all. So there's risks involved in that, of course, because you might forget to switch it on. There's no way of monitoring it. And if you're making, say, wedding films or something, and the groom's standing right down the aisle doing his vows or whatever, and you can't nip up and just check you've turned it on. So you have to be a little bit retentive to just keep checking that you have got it on and it's recording. I do that. I probably check 2 or 3 times before I'm happy with them. But that's the way I do it. Then I sync it up afterwards, and you get a much cleaner, much clearer, much better sound when you're making your final product. But if you'd like to do a hangout, I'll leave it up to you now. So email in or mention it in the Facebook group. If you'd like to do a hangout on sound, be pleased to do that. I seem to have a bit of time on my hands, so just direct message me or mention it in the Facebook group or send an email to click@fujicast.co.uk, and we'll form a group and we'll do that one day. There we go. One more question. This one's from Adam Ramjean. I'm not sure whether we did this one the other day or whether I was talking to Kev about it. I'm getting a sense of deja vu. I'm going to plough on with it regardless, though. Hi, guys. I'm Adam in Islington. Love the podcast. Brilliant balance of technical and theoretical brought together by a great chemistry and an almost AMSR experience. My word. Thank you for your flattery. And Kev will be back to thank you for your flattery in a couple of days, or tomorrow on the main podcast. Been hooked since November, December last year. Been working backwards as well as forwards. I'm up to the July 2019 episodes. One interesting continuity error I found. I've got a friend of mine that looks for continuity errors in films. He spots them a mile off. That's his hobby. It's an odd hobby, but he seems to enjoy himself. One interesting continuity error I found. Oh, this will be me. Neil mentioning he likes things a bit damaged in reference to a Sean Tucker book. Yeah, yes, I got a Sean Tucker sent me a copy of one of his books, and it was a little bit damaged, but I quite like it because it's got character now. But later on, loved having an X100F in pristine condition and didn't let Kevin put a scratch on it. You're absolutely right. I do look after my cameras. The cameras I do look after. I have plenty of dividers in my bag, but. There are I like camera bags to be scratched and look like they've been well used. My good friend Giles, who we reference on regular occurrence on this particular podcast, he was a conflict, not a conflict photographer. He was a photographer in the army who happened to be involved, obviously, in conflicts. He gave me one of his. Is it Domk? How do you pronounce Domk? Is it Domki or Domk? Anyway, he gave me one of those bags that had toured across Iraq with him, and it was my favourite camera bag. And then the straps fell off. Anyway, 2 questions if it's not too greedy. For non-professionals who mainly post on Instagram, would you recommend deleting your earlier photos as you've improved over time, or is it interesting to keep up? Yeah, do you know what? I have a sneaky suspicion we did deal with your question the other day, Adam, but it could have. This is one we get quite often anyway, so we'll answer it again. My advice is keep it. It's great to see somebody's, advance. Great to see how they've come on, how they've moved on, how they've developed. And I find that quite fascinating. I don't find it a weakness to look down to the bottom of somebody's grid and think, God, dear, you're a bit ropey. If anything, it shows you just how far they've come. So I'd keep them. Number 2, do you think in the current, hopefully once-in-a-lifetime context, it could be a great opportunity for people who are thinking about a career change to press the button? Well, I'm always a little bit cautious about offering this kind of advice because you just don't know commercially what's going to come out the other side. If it was photography, yeah, I think there's going to be photographic demand coming out the other side of this. Of course there is. I think if you've developed lots of skills within photography, then, well, now that's even more useful. If you can shoot film, or press the movie button rather, and if you can do the stills, shoot the movies, do some sound, all those kind of things. Yes, I think commercially, not just for commercial photography, but commercial with a small c, commercially in terms of your wedding work, your portrait work, whatever genre, that being able to have all these skills, you're going to be a lot further up the tree when it comes to the decision makers thinking, this guy or girl can do that, and that. So I think use these months to really hone your skills, learn about sound, learn about the movie button, turn that movie button on, practice more with your retouching, do some macro photography. You're inside. If you've got the right lens, the right kit, spend some time doing macro, just honing those skills. And, one of the biggest places you can go to learn stuff for free, you know what I'm going to say, YouTube. Be cautious how far down the rabbit hole you go, and be careful not to watch too much COVID stuff as you're trying to learn. Schedule your time accordingly, but that would be my suggestion. So, yeah, I don't think it's doom and gloom, Adam. Obviously, this moment is doom and gloom in history in terms of world health. Of course it is, yes. But I think, what have we got? If we don't have hope, what have we got? And I'm going to practice the hope thing because anything else seems an entire waste of time. I don't always feel like that. I have my hours and I'm sure days over the coming months where I'm going to be thinking, what? Oh! But I don't like the wallow word. I want to take that out of my dictionary. So I said we had a special guest today, and we have. It's Sam, my wife. Because it's Mothering Sunday today.
I know.
Happy weird Mother's Day.
Very weird Mother's Day, isn't it? Very odd, strange Mother's Day.
Right now, we were supposed to be with Giles in Coke Restaurant, weren't we, having brunch?
That had been our plan.
And then this afternoon, you were going to burn a piece of beef.
Yeah, it's just all a bit odd, I have to say. I mean, and actually it's changed really quickly as the week's gone on.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this time last week we thought we might still go to Cote.
Mm-hmm. Giles cancelled that Monday, didn't he?
He did, and that's obviously because...
And that made sense.
It did make sense, but now we couldn't go because Cote are actually shut.
Yep.
Midway through the week, I think we thought we were still going to have dinner at least, and I was going to cook for my mum, and she was going to come here, and then as the week evolved and changes happened, then that all got put to one side. So I think we're going to socially distance at the top of some sort of hill or something.
We're going for a socially distanced walk.
Yeah.
Although I'm also a little bit concerned of how that looks. Did you see that? I'm not sure if they're real or not, but did you? Because sometimes people put pictures of stuff and put the wrong date on them. It happened actually with people saying there was some thread going around saying the army are going into London. And the pictures ended up being pictures of tanks in the Ukraine or something in a city street. And there were some pictures yesterday though of Snowdon, lots of cars all queued up. Somebody said this is not a bank holiday. Will people understand this? So should I feel a bit squeamish that we're going to go on a socially distanced walk?
I don't know. I think
a weird combination of words.
It is a socially distanced walk.
Yeah.
What's it, oxymoron or whatever they say? I don't know. I think it's all peculiar, and I think we all take steps just to try and I suppose, balance things to a certain extent. Because actually, I think one of my biggest concerns, and this is not a personal concern, is for those most vulnerable and the social isolation, not the social distances, but the isolation and the issues that can have in itself. The sort of mental health side of things. There's a great issue in society anyway, isn't there, with regards, people who just don't see anyone from week in, week out, and this I think just compounds the issue. And trying to find ways around that, trying to find ways that you feel connected, I think are going to be massively important. So. I think it's certainly an odd Mothering Sunday.
How do you think our boys are doing? I noticed Thomas, our youngest, we talk about it on the show. I always say our youngest, but by now, don't you? Because you listen to the show. Said the other day he shut the door because he wanted to do something sneaky or something in his room, and he grandly announced, "I'm going into self-isolation. Shut the door."
They'll use it to their advantage. Actually, do you know what? I think they're fine.
Words that they've never used before.
No, exactly. I know. It's like the kids in the playground playing Corona, which is a bit...
No.
You don't play it anymore, you play Corona. But
we should not be laughing.
We shouldn't be laughing, but the thing is for them that actually if they can have a degree of normality about it, then great, because what... I don't want them to look back at this period and have this sense of fear and something like the anxiety that can be created from it and take that into the rest of their lives. I don't want that for them. I want this to be, and it's not one long holiday, I get that, but I will take the worry, I will take the pressure, and I will take the strain. I want them just to be, in inverted commas, as normal as possible. So if that means that they can take, if they can just have their normal fun and games, but probably slightly more topical, then, so be it, really.
Well, do you remember what was Ring a Roses, a pocket full of posies, a tissue will fall down? And for years I had no idea what that meant. It was just some words that for some reason was sung in a playground over and over until a teacher said, "You do know that was from the plague."
Exactly.
And that's what that meant.
No, I think they're doing really well. I think next week will be peculiar.
Yes, very.
Because obviously homeschooling starts, and that's all a bit of a balance, isn't it? So, I'll be at school a little bit, helping out, doing my key worker roles, and then there'll be the balance of coming home and sort of sorting the boys out, and then obviously working out how you can fit that responsibility into all the other jobs that you have to do, all the other juggling that you're doing. And
I've got time. I've got a free diary.
Yeah, free.
Let me look. Tuesday,
free.
Available. Wednesday. We were talking about this, that whether we should laugh because there are people passing on. We're not obviously making light of that situation. Of course we're not. But actually, humour is a way that is a defence mechanism that many people see.
What do they call it? Not black humour, I suppose.
Gallows humour.
Gallows humour.
It's got a British phrase. Gallows humour. Do you see what Auntie Izzy wrote? The boy's Auntie Izzy. To the mums who face a long period in isolation to keep themselves safe. To the mums who are suddenly having to add teacher to their list of skills. To the mums who are still having to go to work to help the country fight this shit of a disease. You have totally got this. Big arm sort of muscle thing. Sending love to all this Mother's Day. There we go. Happy Weird Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy Weird Mother's Day.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it for today. Back tomorrow with what is traditionally known as The Show. The main show, I guess we should call it, during this period, as we're doing a daily. Back tomorrow then with all its usual features, and Kev. And then Kev's back with me on Tuesday for the rest of the week with The Daily Show. Tomorrow, one of the subjects with a very, very special guest, photographing beauty in what was once chaos.
And I wanted to, therefore, connect the story to the landscape in a way that was paradoxical. Cambodia is a beautiful country, but it's got all these terrible dark secrets.
Back tomorrow, as usual.
The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.